Hello, hello.
Hola. Ahora sí. Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Mark, and I have the pleasure to present these two guys here today. I know about them like in 2004, 2005, I think, which is pretty close when they start their practice, I guess, because it's when I know about them. I was like finishing my studies, and maybe now it's not something that maybe could look like relevant in a studio, but in 2004, to see a group of people, of 3 people in this case, making their own studio, making projects by themselves, and also like taking pictures of the projects in a really explicit way. It was really weird to see and really inspiring. Now, like, you know, we are full of these kind of people everywhere. And what I like about them is that they are very clean. They are clean. They are clean. They design clean things, and they show them like really clean. And they have been doing this for more than 20 years already. And also they are 3 people, which is also really strange to see a product design studio of 3 people for more than 20 years and being still alive. So I just want to say this, and I leave you with them, with Elric and Augustin, who will talk a little bit about their practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. We're a bit surprised by the amount of people that are coming. We're a bit nervous, too, so please bear with us. And yes, we are here to tell you a little bit about our work, what we do, and also a little bit how we do it. And so we are an industrial design studio, so it means our main area of focus is to design objects, and a little bit more in particular, products that are functional. That's what we do. By the way, for the story, this picture is not a Photoshop. It's a picture that we did for our first exhibition in a museum. It was a museum in Belgium, and we had only been working for 4 years, and they asked us to do a retrospective exhibition, which felt really, really strange and crazy, to be honest, and we were very scared because we felt we hadn't done enough work to do a retrospective exhibition. So what we did is that we basically did all our objects in different colors, so the same object but in many different colors, so that it looked like we had done a lot of work, but in fact we hadn't. And the funny thing is, after we did this picture, it's turned. It was in a big studio, and then the photographer was on a staircase like this, and then we turned the image.
It took one night for the setup,
yeah,
and we didn't sleep that night.
No. And then at the end, people said, you really love colors. You have a special touch with colors. But in fact, we didn't. We were just very scared. So, so this is us. Greg is not here today. He's the Swiss guy. He's not here because he's skiing. It's very cliche, but yeah. And then Elric right here is Belgian, and I'm French, and we met together in a school called École, which is close to in Lausanne, and we have carried on working together, and now it's our 20th year. So if you guys are students, maybe working with your colleagues could be something that works out. We're a very small team of people. We're maximum 10 people. I just found out this pointer function, so I'm going to. And then we are. So this is also a slide that we use a lot when we present in Asia. So this is Lausanne. It's on the shores of Lake Geneva. It's very nice. And we found that in the official website of the Swiss Confederation, it's called the San Francisco of Switzerland. We had never heard it before, but it sounds cool. It's not as big as San Francisco or anything. And then here we show you also our book that we published with Lars Müller, which is a publisher in Switzerland specialized more in architecture books. It's called Everyday Objects, and the reason why we started working together to design objects is because we shared the same interest for objects that people use every day. objects that are affordable, that can speak to anyone, that you don't have to be especially educated to appreciate them. And that's what we wanted to do. And it sounds a bit obvious, but when we started working, it was not always the case. A lot of designers also wanted to do things that were more for galleries or more specific, and we really wanted to do mass production. That was what we wanted to do. And then the next question usually in the conversation is why we are called Big Game, which is a bit of a strange name. Actually, so we started working together very organically. 3 sort of ex-students working together, and we wanted to show our work in the Salone del Mobile in Milano, which is in April, which is kind of the biggest fair for design and furniture design. And there's a place within that fair which is called Salone Satellite, which is a place where students can rent a small booth to show their work. And we had rented a small booth, like 4 by 4 meters. And the first thing we wanted to show was these hunting trophies made out of plywood. So it's like the head of an animal that instead of inheriting it from your grandfather that was a hunter, we thought it was really cool that you could buy it flat pack like an IKEA product. And then we didn't have a name for ourselves because our 3 names together was impossible to remember. So we decided to call ourselves Big Game because in English it means big animals that you hunt, big game. Also in French it's le grand jeu, so it was a bit ironic, going to Milan to do le grand jeu. But honestly, we spent, I think, 2 hours to discuss what would be our name, and now we have to keep this name forever. But it's okay, And also this slide is to show you that tonight we're going to show you not only the finished products that is very clean, like Mark highlighted, but also what happens before and around and how the project comes about. So these are the first pictures of these super messy projects that were done in cut cardboard in the beginning. And funnily enough, also this is our first product. It's still in production. It's still sold today. And it's the only product we designed that has absolutely no function at all. It's just a sort of decoration somehow.
Yes. And then at the beginning of the studio, we look for client, obviously, because the idea is to live with this work. And then we were ready to design different typology of object. And we said to ourselves that we should go into the electronic devices, and we would like to start with something. And then we said, let's start small. And then is the reason why we came with this USB memory stick. It was 13 years ago. At that time, the memory stick became smaller and smaller. I mean, you even lose them in the bag, or I don't know. And then it's not so convenient. And then we decided to give a new materiality to this object, and we come with this very simple idea of a pencil, sorry. And we get inspired directly by this brand, probably everybody know normally. It's just Caran d'Ache Prismalo, and we sent the box directly in China for where they do the injection of plastic. Then it was very easy and convenient for the color matching. It was only the price of shipment plus the box of the pencils. And it's quite, the good thing is also that you can recognize easily if you have the red, the yellow, and things like that. And we were a little bit scared because we signed a contract with a company in Hong Kong, and they sell it. And after, we remind that in our field, in design, you cannot copy another brand. And as the color and the shape, even some detail, are very close to this company, Caran d'Ache, who is based in Geneva, where there are many powerful lawyers. And we were thinking, okay, now we have to approach them very humbly and said to them, yes, we did that because we love your brand, blah, 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 blah. And we sent the USB to them. And after that, they asked us to design things for them. Then it was a good surprise.
Yes. So yeah, as designers, if you're interested in product design or industrial design, you're also probably fascinated by technical things that you see sometimes, or like a specific detail of something that catches your eye. And in our case, for instance, when we were exhibiting in Salone Satellite, actually, we met with a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Hay, Hay, so two people from Denmark that founded this brand, and they asked us to design something to go in the entrance of the home, and somehow we got inspired by this, the standard metal profiles like the beams, and we had this idea that it could be nice to use this shape to create a coat rack system. And it's funny because the way we approached it, we were thinking that, as you know, sort of, we wanted to show that we knew about industrial things. So we were saying, maybe you should find a profile that exists, that has the right size, and then we can use it, and it will not be too expensive and stuff. And then we sent them the drawings, and they called us back. They said, oh yeah, we love it. So we're making a profile just for for this coat rack, which was okay. Why not? And what's nice also about this is that okay, you can, if you want another hook, you can buy an extra hook. So it comes with like maybe 4, but then you can buy more. And also because it has this shape, you can put, when you always forget to send that letter that you have to send, but you always forget it. That way you can leave it on the coat rack. So when you leave your door, you're reminded to take it with you. And so that's how we started working with Hay, which is it's a very interesting company because they started quite small. They're the same age as us as a design studio, but they had this incredible growth that made them a very big company now that belongs to the Herman Miller group, Miller Knoll actually. And so because the coat rack worked, we wanted to go further to reach, our dream as designers. And we're a bit special because our dream, it was not something really fancy or really crazy. Our dream was to design a laundry basket, Laundry baskets are usually, everybody has one. They're very convenient, but a lot of the times they're quite ugly or they're not very practical. And we wanted to design one that was going to be the same price as the one you can buy in the supermarket, that would be made in the same material, that would have the same weight, but just be, designed in a way that's really practical and good looking. So this is to show you a little bit the mock-ups that we do. So it's very makeshift. For every project, you have to find a new way to make a mock-up. So this is just paper on a block of polystyrene. And this is the final result. So there's a big one and a small one, and they stack. And we spent a lot of time for, details that were very important to us, but I think nobody ever notices. But like here you can see that the lines of the small one go exactly in the empty space of the lines of the large one. I don't know. For us, it was super important. But and so, okay, you design this, you make a mock-up, you make a drawing, you make a 3D file, and then you send it to them, and it's pretty stressful usually because here you can see on the top left, they sent us this on WhatsApp, and this is a picture of the block of steel that they had bought to make the mold. So it's like a gigantic block of steel, which is, and then when we received this, we were thinking, okay, let's check the 3D file again to be sure that it's right, And then you can see in this small movie that we also received this is the first test of the mold, the injection mold. And this is the paradox a little bit, is if you want to make an object that is going to be very affordable, usually the way of producing it is going to cost a lot. So you're going to have to produce a lot so that it's affordable. Here also, it's interesting to note that it's made from 100% post-consumer recycled plastic. So that's also one thing which makes it okay to use plastic, I guess. And then, this is a bit more nerdish, but this is the first injection test that they do in black, because then you can really see everything that goes wrong on the surface. And also you can see here that it's very, very shiny because they haven't put the surface treatment on the mold yet, because they want to be able, it's very shiny, you can see it here. Sorry, it's a bit nerdy, but just in case you're interested. And then building on this relationship, Hey got the possibility to do a project with IKEA, and that was even more in the things that we really liked, because IKEA for us is we think not everything they do is great. For sure there are some things that are really wasteful and not very smart, but still, IKEA is one of the shops that has sort of democratized the notion of design, and some of the objects that they make are good, and essentially their production system is a great tool if you want to make good products, if you want to push things in a nice direction. So we had this opportunity with Hey to collaborate with IKEA to make this children's furniture, and there we wanted to not only think about the furniture when it's assembled, but also because everything at IKEA comes flat packed, we wanted to think about the whole experience. So as a kid, when your parents come back with a piece of IKEA furniture, maybe your dad gets angry because there's a missing screw or something. So we were thinking, if we make it really simple, it could be almost like a game or something you can do together with the kids, almost like a construction game. So we made it very, very simple, very few pieces to assemble, and the idea is that it becomes almost like building like a tree house or something, like a nice experience. And this was quite good. And there was another thing that we had also in our studio that we had been working on, which was to make shelves with aluminum. There you can see some mock-ups that we make, and there's even a test that we're trying with the right material.
This is Greg.
Yeah.
Then you see that he's skiing, but also snowboarding.
Yes.
You can see the attitude.
Exactly. And also, he's the lightest of us three, so we're very, very careful.
I don't agree.
And so this is something like it's kind of it stayed in the studio. We're not sure how it could work out, and this really Rolf Hay. So he called us. Said, "Yeah, remember this shelf? I think we can do it with IKEA. It would be great." And so there was the result, and it looks quite simple, which is good. But actually, they patented a system to connect the metal things, the metal, how do I call it? The metal planks. No, it doesn't work anymore. Like this. Yes. So the connection between the two, they patented a system so that you don't need to have a cross section, which is always the problem when you have IKEA shelves. Usually, is that you have, even if they're nice, you have a cross section to make sure that they don't go like this. And sometimes also in the shops, they screw it to the wall and you don't see it and you think they're super stable, but they're actually not. So here it could really stand in the middle of the room without a cross section, and it's kind of details like this that you never think about unless you actually start designing something like this, and then you realize all the complexity that lies beneath it.
Cool. Then from IKEA to Magis and Me Too, it's different scale of company. Then we love working with completely different companies. They have different stories, and here Magis is a family business. The family is a Perazza family. They are in the Veneto, close to Venice, and the owner gets a 70-year-old a few years ago, and he became a grandfather, and his company is used to be chairs. It's used to make chairs, but normal chairs for adults. And he decided to come with a new chair for child, for the family growing. And he asked us to design a chair who follow the kids when they grew up. Then the chair height is something like this, and it goes until this. And the idea, in the briefing, he said from 2-year to 6-year-old. And the thing is, the project took 6 years of development. Then it was a little boy, was too high when the chair was launched, which we didn't achieve in the right time, but not because of us, because we did very well our job, obviously. And but because of him, he's here. I never used this one, but this person. It's too complicated for me. Sorry, I'm not as. And then it's him, but as he's very talented to drive his company. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's very good to speak with designer and challenge the designer to do their best. And then even during the meeting, you can see that he decided with his assistant to redesign the curve on the spot. Then he took some clay, and they are doing like a Rodin, or they sculpt directly on the chair. And it's funny for us because we do our best to achieve a nice shape, but we arrive and the boss arrived and he changed the shape. But at the end, we really like, because he's really involved. And as I said before, it's like a trattoria or a family business. He gives a lot of energy to do his best. And that's a little bit what could happen during a meeting in our life.
And so, for instance, this is a kid's chair, and then the IKEA product was also a kid's chair, but it's a completely different experience. Like here, it's really, if he likes it, it's going to happen. If he doesn't like it, it's dead. It's just one person who decides.
Yeah.
And then on the contrary, with IKEA, it's like the biggest product meeting you could ever have. Is like, there's like the Polish team because they produce the wood. There's the Italian team that produce the plastic. There's the Swedish team. So it's a huge room, and in the middle there's just one little kid's chair that everybody will discuss.
And in that case, regarding the plastic injection, he called someone from the village next door, and the person come because they inject the piece of plastic in like 20 kilometers far from the company, as it's the same for the wood. Is the wood from around, and it's completely different then.
Yeah, and so you've guessed a little bit, but we try to also work with different industries. Maybe it has to do with the fact that we're 3 people, and if you get bored more easily if you always work in the same field. So we're always excited to try something new, and not to focus only on furniture or only on tableware or lighting. And every time we start a project, it's a little bit like an enigma. You have to visit the company, and then you visit the factory, and it's always trying to find what can you put into the project to make it a really, the best project possible. And so this, for instance, it's a company in Czech Republic, and they make mouth-blown crystal, which is a speciality over there. But they make like really, really big parts. And also it's kind of a very technical factory, so they even used to make the front of the cosmonaut's helmet. And they still have like machines all written in, with a Cyrillic alphabet, with like all the surface treatment to make the cosmonauts equipment. So like quite high tech, but also a little bit feeling of being like in a Tintin, where you see they're gonna send people to the moon. And then here we were so impressed by how big they could blow the glass, like really a group of very big guys blowing into glass like this, that we tried to make the biggest lamp possible, and that the lamp would look like it's still inflated by the air that they had in their lungs. So you can see it's it's extremely heavy. It's like a bubble of crystal that they're holding. And then they close the mold, and the mold is like, it's made from a tree trunk. So it's really like big tree trunk like this. And they actually blow into it to make these shapes. And that's the result. And it's, it's, if you don't know where it comes from, maybe you think it looks like a beehive or something. but in fact, we really got the inspiration from seeing the guys working in the factory. And that's also a little bit what makes this job exciting, is to see the factory and how people work. And usually people are super happy when they can take part in the process, of sort of being at the origin of the inspiration.
Yeah. Back at the beginning of the opening of the studio, we said, us three, that we should do a chair because we plan to go to the Salone in Milano, as we are based in Lausanne. It's 3 hours by train, Milano, then it's quite cool to go and show, because the people from around the world, you probably know, come to Milan for the furniture fair. Then, as this furniture, it's not electronic device or glass, it's furniture. Then let's do a chair, but only based on an intuition that we had all three. Okay, we like tubular furniture, like many designers, because of the modern style, Breuer chairs and things like that. But we would like to make it in a different way. Then we want only tubes and no backrest and seat parts in wood, but only tube. And then that's the first research to explain the idea, even between us in the studio, and the first 3D renderings. And we quite soon defined the name of the chair, which is uncommon, because at the end, in general, we give the name of the object at the last stage. But here, we give the name directly, because by trying in the 3D program some design, it appears that the tube, we start with a thin, it becomes a medium, bold, extra bold, and extra bold at the end. And it's the reason why we give the name bold chair, also because in Switzerland, fonts and typeface are quite important. You probably know Helvetica font is one of the, everybody know. And we said, okay, we are in Switzerland, we do a chair, we can give a name bold, it's related to what happened in Switzerland. Why not? And slowly, after the being in the computer, we have to do some mock-up of this. Then we went to the hairdresser to take some hair curler, And the first mock-up is made with a hair curler. And the ugly one on the right, we can even say the very ugly one, is made with a pipe tube from the shop, the DIY shop close by the studio. It's we show these images tonight also to explain that we do our best to do mock-up ugly, no, to do mock-up affordable, because we want to see as soon as possible what is the object in reality. And then even if with water pipe, we do it quickly. It's very important. But after that, we slowly have to go to the next step, and then we went to, this person who take care of the heater. Then we bend tube with the person there, because the product is made with a tube inside, and foam, and a sock in cotton. And that's the stage after in the development, was about finding a company who produce a sock, and we asked them, could you please do a very long sock for the chair? Then they look at us, okay guys, but it's not possible, blah, 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 blah. Then as a designer, you always have to see, I think it's possible, blah, blah, blah. And then it's also the reason why we are 3 persons, because the first one said, first time, second, and third time, and after some time it happened.
And somebody can always say, I didn't know it was not possible. Can you try?
That's really big. And then finally, in the company, they become very keen with the chair, and they like it, and they even send us a sock with their choice of color and with pattern of little chair. We said, no, I think we'll not do it, but Augustin explained that better than me, he said himself. And then the product are the chair. We start with the chair. As designer, it's also in the furniture field, it's nice to try to build a collection. Then if you do the chair, try to do a stool, bench, and then you have many products in the catalog. It's better. It's also better for the royalties. And then we start with the chair, after the stool and bench, and that's an article we are very proud because it is now in the MoMA collection. And last year we launched the one for kids. And as people said to us that it's a radical design, etc., we said, okay, now we should do something more radical. And the company based in Paris who produced this collection said to us, please guys, come with a new pieces. We want an armchair, low chair. And to be honest, the chair is not very comfortable. It's good to know.
It's main quality again.
Yeah, it's not ergonomic and things like that. Sometimes we don't play this game. And then this one is even less ergonomic. You can have a big problem of back if you use it too long. But visually something happened. But for us, maybe you don't like it. Yeah. And then Grégoire, then the ski, the guy from the ski, is trying. Then after 10 minutes, you have to wake up. And then, okay, now it's in production, and we love sometimes working on the limit of what is okay and not okay, and this one is part of this category.
Yeah. And also to add to that, I think one thing that was interesting when we launched this one was that people were coming to us and said, but how can you sit on it? It's impossible, I'm not sure. And then they would try and then say, okay, it's fine. And then also the guys at Moustache that sell the chair, they also told us that at the beginning people would buy one chair for just as an object in their home. But then now they get orders of people who buy like complete 6 chairs to put around their dining table. So it's also I don't think it's the best experience of spending a whole evening on that chair, but it shows of how people get sort of used to certain things, and then they accept it. And now we get a little bit the same reaction here, is that sometimes we show the chair without Grégoire sitting on it, and people are like, but how can you sit on this chair? It's impossible, So it's also like Elric is saying, is on the edge of is it okay to do it, or are you pushing it too far? And that's one of the things, because nowadays so many brands are here and so many brands are competing for attention. Sometimes if you do something like this, it's easier to differentiate yourself by really saying, okay, this looks almost impossible, but then at least it's really different from what the other things that exist. This is to show you something from a completely different field, tableware. We also enjoy working in that field because we love eating, obviously. But this is a brand called Opinel. In France, they're really famous. They make folding knives in wood, and it's a company that's more than 130 years old. It was founded by Monsieur Opinel, and he invented a system to lock your knife, your canif, so that it doesn't fold when you're using it, and it's still owned by the family, and they're still in Chambéry in France, quite close to Switzerland, and the thing is they want the company to remain up to date, because they realized that when their ancestor invented that knife, he didn't think about style or stuff like that. He thought about making something very functional. And so they keep thinking, okay, we need to do something functional for today. And so the first project we did with them was to do some table knives, so things you can use to eat, when you eat meat, things like that. And what you need today, I mean, most people, they have a dishwasher and they put their knives in the dishwasher. So if you have a wooden knife and you put it in the dishwasher, it's going to get destroyed after a while. And also, they have a way of making the blade that you never have to sharpen it, because nobody really sharpens their knives that they use to eat on the table. So basically, we designed that knife on the right, which is this, it's like a reinterpretation of the classic that you have in the middle, using, basically, you find the same language, but with contemporary materials.
You do it very well.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it works really well to cut saucisson. It's like a real pleasure. If you can, yeah, I think you should really try.
Well, we get hungry.
And then one thing which is also quite special about designing objects like this is that, okay, they have to, I mean, if you look at the object itself, it has to look good, but also it has to work well when you set the table. You know, if you make a knife, for instance, that when you put it on a surface, it goes like, it starts shaking. It's so annoying. So you have to make it that when you put it on the surface, it stays on the surface. Another thing is, so we managed to work with them to also make some fork and some spoons. So after 130 years, they went from knife to fork. It's kind of like, and what is also important about this is that they have to feel good in your hand, but they also have to feel good in your mouth. So that's also one thing. The spoon has to contain enough soup so that you can actually eat your soup with it. Etc. And the fork has to be pointy, but not too much, so that you don't point your tongue, which is, in the development process, it means that at some point you have to put something in your mouth to try it out, to see how it actually feels. And then another field that we're exploring with them as well is kitchen knives. And that's also very interesting, because kitchen knives, so we like cooking, but we're not professional cooks. So we worked with teams of professional cooks to get their answer on how to have the right blades, because it's like knives that are sometimes used in cooking schools, and so you need to be able to do the right thing when you're slicing vegetables and stuff. And this is one of the latest collection we did with them, and it's forged, so it's really made from a solid rod of steel, which is heated in the middle, then it's compressed, and then you have this bowl that happens, then it's stamped so that you get the full shape of the knife, then it's cut, and then with the remaining part, they basically polish it, grind it, and then make a knife out of it. And that's it's like really, it's the best quality of knife that you can have, because it's made from one piece of metal, and also it's so satisfying to think that the design that you're making is actually going to be made with that technique, which is really it's like something that comes from thousands of years of men forging metal. It's kind of cool, and it's made in France, which is also very important for a brand like this, that they maintain the production where they always have it, because it's a part of the know-how, and also what people want to see when they work with them.
Yeah. Here it's a product for Muto, and little story is we start working with hay 15 years ago, and a few years after we start working with Muto, and the funny thing is they are two competitors, which is a challenge for a designer to work with both of them. They are in the same street in Copenhagen, and then we were happy to work with both companies. For this product, we were very lucky, I would like to say, because we designed it just before the pandemic, and the launch was the same year as the pandemic. And the one particularity of this object is that it's related to, it's a side table, very easy to use in the close to the sofa, and then you can work or eat in your sofa. And during the pandemic, we stay all at home, and then many people bought this little table. It was very good because as the designers, as we earn money with royalties. You probably know the business model. We are not all doing exactly like this, but with big game it's like this. And then as they sell a lot, it was good. Then we can change the studio because we were in a small and we get in a bigger one, which it was very good for the team as well. And one reason of the success of the side table is that it's also easy to ship and then easy to build at home, a little bit like an IKEA project, but with the quality which is a bit higher because it's Muto. And the image on the left is with an assistant, just to let you know that we always do the mock-up as exactly how it will be at the end, just to verify everything a little bit, as Augustin said, with the laundry basket. It's important before the launch before the production to verify everything. And still with Muto, a few years later, they send us this, you see the white object there. It's they send it by post. This piece is a light bulb with LEDs inside. They said to us it will be a new standard in this industry. And then please do a pendant lamp with this technique, with this component. And we come with this simple idea of, everybody knows probably the spun steel lamp. It's like very old. And we just give this shape of the component on the top, and that's it. It was the product. Sometimes it's enough. And then it works. They sell it quite well. And if you know Muto, they are very good in selling a product matte. They call dusty color. It's but this one is glossy, and they said, okay, we try to come with a glossy color, because designing a product is one thing, but speaking about colors is another thing. And then it's the first Muto product which is glossy. That's
a revolution in Scandinavia.
Yeah. And I think they regret.
Really?
Yeah,
they were unsure. Yeah.
Yeah, they were unsure.
Okay. Okay. So speaking about Scandinavia, so actually I was just yesterday in Norway, and this is to show you also a completely different industry. So office chairs, projects that are very, very heavy and complex because there's so many components in them, and you need to have a lot of knobs that turn and move. And so this is a company called Hog in the middle of Norway. It's usually like -20 in their factory, and there you can see, so we showed you because we went there quite a lot for this project with Elric, and on the right you have the magnificent result from our first mock-ups for the project. So I don't know why we put a banana. Honestly, we were trying to think about it, but we don't remember why. And then when you work on a project like this, you have a huge team of people, but it's because there's a lot of engineers, there's a lot of things you need to calculate. And for this project, what was cool was they wanted to do a simplified office chair, so something that could go in co-working spaces or even at home or for schools. And we think they did a really good job at not making it too complicated. It's the kind of industry where it can become extremely complex and extremely technical, and they managed to keep it very, very simple. So that's to show you also another topic that you can
the comfort is better than the ball chair.
You can actually sit on it for a long time.
Thankfully for that. Yeah. Every briefing is different. Here is a company in Paris. The name is Tiptoe, and the first meeting they said to us, "We would like you to design a sofa." And but after we wait, yes, but what's next? What do you want? The idea is we should You know, in Paris, the staircase are very tiny and it's small. And we would like a sofa which is very easy to take until the fifth floor by the staircase. Then we design a sofa made with different components in every boxes. Then it's easy to move with the sofa. Even if you have to move in another studio, you can take the metro easily with your sofa in different parts. You need a friend to help you, but it's feasible. And then it's an easy to build sofa out of detail in steel, because this company is very good in making piece of steel. And here at the scale, because we try to do the mock-up at the right scale as much as possible, but sometimes also we do, as you are probably designer as well, you do at the 1/10 scale just to make life easier.
Yeah, and this is to show you a few products also where sometimes the brief is a little bit strange. So for instance, Nespresso, it's a brand that makes a coffee system where you have pods and a machine that you probably know. And what made them famous 35 years ago is that they were the ones to invent a thing where you could just press a button and you could get Italian-style espresso. And before they invented that, you had to have a sort of complex thing or a percolator or something. And so they had small cups because they were making espresso. But then they realized that their target audience was getting, changing taste, that people like larger coffees, Americanos, lattes, all of that. And also that people like to make latte art, so nice things that happen on the top of the cup. And they really like to post it on social media. And that's a problem for them, because if you look at a cup from the top and you look at it like this, how can people know that it's an espresso coffee? So we got the brief to design a cup that is larger, that's very comfortable, and also that has the logo conveniently placed.
Almost.
Yeah, on top of the handle, so that basically when you take a picture from the top, you can actually see as a small branding thing that it's an espresso cup. So, you never know. Sometimes you get a brief like this. It's a bit weird. They were even telling us it's a weird brief, but that's it. That's the brief. Another thing that we tried also a few years ago is that we launched a startup company based in Hong Kong. We found somebody to work with in Hong Kong. She came to us, and she wanted to create a small startup that would design and produce equipment for airlines. So, when you take the plane and you receive a tray, if you're in economy class, or if you're more fancy, you're in business class, you receive, plates and stuff. And in first class, it's almost like a really fine dining restaurant. And so the idea is to design equipment and produce it for airlines. So this is the first product we did with this startup, and it's for Swiss International Airlines. It's to deliver food on board. And what they had before was something which was disposable, made out of cardboard, plastic, and the passengers were really happy to receive it. But then as they ate, they had this big, bulky pile of junk that they gave back to the how do you call that?
Crew.
To the crew. And then the crew complained and the passengers complained because the last memory was all this waste. And so we basically had to come up with a box that would be reusable at least 100 times. So here, if you think just about the box, it's one thing, but then you have to think about all the things that go around it. You have to be able to put 12 in a standard drawer. The drawers fit in a trolley that fits in the galley of a plane. So it's really understanding the whole life cycle, how the food is produced, everything, how it's washed at the end. And so it's a Swiss thing. So you can see here that it's there's a long part here. That's to put the slice of Swiss cheese. Really important. So it couldn't work on Air France. It would have had to be a triangle, for Camembert or something. But it's funny, right? There's like cultural things that influence, but also functional things. And the funny thing is, we had this company that was able to produce sort of tableware, and then we told this story to Hey, and they were like, "Wow, that's great. Can you make these for us?" So we found by this we actually found how it is to, okay, we designed the cutlery for hay, but then we also got to produce it. So that way you also see the other end of the spectrum. You can be a designer and you can be a producer at the same time. So we designed two tableware ranges for hay, and that's it.
Yep. That's in India. We met someone who bought the right of the furniture from Chandigarh, the biggest city built by Le Corbusier, and he did all the buildings, but also with his team, the furniture. And this company is based in Bangalore, which is a little bit far from Chandigarh, but they reproduce perfectly the furniture from Chandigarh. You see the little chair, the chair on the top. It's one original piece from Chandigarh. And it's funny because we arrive sometime in companies with different stories, as you understood before, and this one is completely special because their idea is special in the sense also of, or socially, they want to give work to people around Bangalore. That's part of their aim. The goal is to give a better life to craftsmen around. And if they are not yet good craftsmen, they take them in the company if they want, and they learn slowly. Then it's a beautiful way of doing, and we were quite convinced that, okay, we are really lucky to work with this company. And even the craftsmen even build themselves their tools in the company, which is beautiful. And I was sometimes a little bit shocked because they are working on the ground and things like that, but they are fine with that. Then okay. And another story, we designed a sofa for this company, and we asked them sometime to sit on the sofa, but they were not allowed because in their culture, they cannot sit on the sofa. I was super surprised, even shocked, but it was completely part of the deal in this company. And then when we arrived in the step of choosing the fabric, in furniture industry, they often use a quadrat textile, textile from a huge industry and in this company, they want to do everything, as I said before, around. And then we went to see someone who is doing his own textile himself. And then it's a linen, and we choose directly with the guy, and we did the swatch with him. And it was a very good surprise because we can choose everything and do all the process of design a little bit like in the 50s, because we didn't work with computer, only by hand, and it was a very good experience in that sense. Sometimes just to leave everything, to work far from the computer to achieve furniture. It was a very good experience for that.
Yes. And this is one of our oldest clients. It's Karimoku. It's a company in Japan that makes wooden furniture. It's one of the biggest manufacturer of wooden furniture in Japan, and it's actually quite well known over there. So usually when we meet a Japanese person and we say Karimoku, we get a lot of street credibility usually. We're super proud of that. And one thing we realized is that they really love long-term relationships. And so we started in the very beginning by designing a stool. And then the year after, we designed a chair, and then an armchair, and then a bar stool, and then tables, etc. So it's like instead of going full on and saying we want to make a whole collection, basically we took it gradually. And it's not a very rational thing of designing a chair based on a stool without thinking about it in the beginning, but that's how it happened. and it's quite an interesting experience. So here to show you the process of how it goes. So they're very far away, they're in Japan, and you have to send them a chair. So you send them a 3D file and some technical drawings. I guess that's the classic. But then you have to be sure that what you send is actually okay. So on the left, it's not a toilet. It's actually something to actually try to sit on it and feel if it's comfortable. One thing that we try to do with this one is to have the same backrest angle and dimension as the classic Swiss cafe chairs. One of the reasons is that we noticed that people can spend a really long time in these cafes, and maybe it's not only because of the wine, it's also maybe because the chairs are comfortable, so we try to take this. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see this is a model more to check the proportion and the aesthetic. So it's two things that you have to do because you cannot sit on the chair on the right, obviously. And then, you send them a technical drawing and a CAD file, and they send you this, basically. So they make it, and then they kind of destroy it with the machine to see if it will fit their quality standard. I think that was one of the best exchanges, like lost in translation, really like they made it and they're destroying it. And then it's very, what is very interesting to see is that then this gets sort of solidified into something that they take so much care in making that sometimes you feel almost intimidated that you made this mock-up in cardboard and then it becomes this design that they produce with so much care and so much respect. And we work with them on some other things. For instance, there's a company making office chairs that was 150 years old, and for their anniversary, we realized that the office chairs they make are really classic, but that we realized that in the past they had been making chairs out of wood, like atelier chairs, and they completely forgot how to do it. But we thought it was interesting to try to make a chair where you could actually have the same comfort, or almost the same, but made out of wood. And so we asked Karimoku to help them, by making the wooden components, and they were up for it. So it's very nice to be able to suggest some directions like this to people, and that they actually go for it. One of the recent projects that we've done with them is a system called Lobby. It's basically a square structure, and then you can build the sofa in the way you want. It's perfect for waiting rooms and stuff like that, so that's why we called it Lobby. And they even made a configurator that looks a lot like an old Nintendo game. So it's not super easy to navigate, but it's quite fun. And one thing also that we kind of try to do with the companies that we work with is to suggest some cross collaborations. So, for instance, the project that I showed you before with the office chairs, we always like to connect companies together because we think there's so many nice things that can come from this connection. So, for instance, LG Display is a company in Korea that makes OLED screens, like some of the best quality screens that you have now, and they can make them transparent. And we're working with them for a few years to try to design new televisions using that technology. And then we thought maybe we could try to do a project together with Karimoku and do a sort of a TV integrated into the furniture. So this never happened actually, but we just show you that it's the kind of things we try. Sometimes we make images and say, hey, it could have some potential for waiting rooms, or we thought also like this one could be nice if you want to make a booth where you can have a discussion, like a sort of virtual meeting. And then this is the final one. I think we're almost to the hour. So, and this is to show you also that sometimes projects come really by chance, and it's only because you're in the factory and you have to be a little bit alert and not too tired. but you can also find opportunity like this. So, for instance, Faust in Germany is a company that makes, their core business is to make linoleum tabletops. And it's very popular with architecture studios, so they order tabletops of the size they want, and it's covered in linoleum. And we are working with them for a really long time to make a table system, which is very complicated and taking forever. But when we were in the factory, we noticed that, so they buy all this linoleum from Forbo Linoleum, which is one of the biggest producer of linoleum in the world, and they have these beautiful cardboard tubes that they keep. And it's not like toilet paper. It's like super strong cardboard, like really, really almost like wood. And so we thought maybe we could use this tube to actually make side tables, and then also because they make really big tables. In fact, they have a lot of leftovers from that production, so they have small parts that they can reuse. So this table is basically made only from offcuts that they have in the factory that is reused to make these side tables. So that's why it's called offcut. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Juste dans les temps. Ils en partent.
Hi, thanks for the talk, first of all.
Hi.
In the end, you mentioned this kind of collaborations between brands, and I was wondering, how does it start? Do you do you talk with the other brand, or is it some kind of an internal exchange of information between them, or?
Yeah, it comes from, I think, being a little bit entrepreneurial, and sometimes we think, wouldn't it be nice if we could, make these two guys work together? We tried, in fact, many times, and it's very rare that it works, actually. So it's usually you get a stop, but yeah, yeah, I can give you so many examples of ideas. It goes also with the fact that sometimes you would so much like to see. For instance, we tried to convince, Caran d'Ache to do something for Swiss Airlines because we thought, as a kid, wouldn't it be nice if you got like really nice color pencils when you take the plane? But we never managed to make it work. But there's kind of this vision where it's, you would really want to make it happen.
So you start with the proposal for the other brand.
Yeah, so it comes a little bit from having, as a kid, thinking it would be so cool that it could be like this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk. I really appreciate that you showed the process of making of each object. I guess in the process of talking to suppliers and to makers, many of the ideas come. And I guess it's the challenge of finding the right makers to make the object that you imagined. I have just one nerdy question. In the object of the basket, you showed that the mold was made out of steel, I think.
Sorry?
In the object of the basket,
Yes.
the mold was made out of steel.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I would think it would be made out of wood, maybe. Why steel? Why such a heavy?
Okay. Well, it's because it's made. The technique is plastic injection, and it's a technique where you need to be able to produce very quickly. So that's why you need a mold where you can put a lot of pressure to inject the plastic, and actually it's true what you say. It doesn't have to be steel. You can also make aluminum molds, for instance, and they're cheaper to make. But the problem is that you can only use them to make maybe 1,000 pieces, and after that the mold gets sort of broken from the production process. So if you know that you want to make really a lot of product, like thousands and thousands, you have to make a steel mold. That's the way to do it.
It will endure more. It will last more time.
Yeah, exactly. It would last basically forever, and you can make, Yeah.
you for the talk. I just one question, like, can you explain a little bit more about working with Magis versus IKEA? Like, what is your experience better or worse, or what would you prefer in the future?
It's comparing IKEA, the experience with IKEA and
Magis?
Magis.
It's a little bit why I tried to explain before, but maybe I didn't explain very well. The amount of people with IKEA is huge. When you are in a meeting, we are like even sometimes like 15 or 20 person with all the engineer and things like that. And with Magis, it's, as I said, it's a family business. It's the owner and one designer, and it's completely different in terms also in relation with the client you work with. And also maybe Magis is more into taking risk in new typologies of chairs because they are tiny, they can decide everything themselves, and it's also part of the DNA of this company to come with impressive new design. I'm not speaking about what we did, but for instance, Konstantin Gricic did the chair one in aluminium with a very strong design, and then that's Magis. And IKEA, they comes with very interesting design, but it's more mainstream. And then it's also in the balance something completely different. If you are working with IKEA, you have to design a product which, like, that a maximum of person who will like and buy. And then this is completely different. Is it convincing for you as an answer?
On a scale to 1 to 5?
Just wondering, like, which one you prefer most? Like the big company like IKEA, or you prefer with the family business?
I think in all the portfolio of the products we have, it's a balance of everything, because it's good to work with big scale mass production also for our learning, and sometimes it's good to work with craftsmen. Then we don't prefer one of the other. It's just a matter of
the diversity. Basically, it's what makes this job really enjoyable is that it changes. Also, we find that it's nice that you talk to people in different countries and in different industries. That's what we really like as a studio, is it's never boring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for sharing. I was wondering, as you said before, that you're trying to appeal to a bigger audience or to democratize design, good design. What would you say are your main references outside of design or in arts or?
As designers, you mean like good? Yeah. Well, there's one designer, maybe you know, he's a French designer called Roger Talon. Maybe you know him. He was a very important designer after the war in France, and he designed things from like the trains, and then he was really also, lots of things, from lamps, from furniture, from bottles for sunscreen. So things that are very diverse, and we think it's kind of these guys that manage to, when they have the chance, they manage to really treat well like bigger projects. So for instance, he's the one who designed in France the Train Corail, so before the TGV, and I think he did the TGV as well. Yeah. And but he did everything, like the train, the logo, the timetable, the clock on the, like sort of an integral approach, and it was so well done, and it's funny because this culture of design that, you know, if you have a good guy that or a good person that takes care of it, then it got lost somehow. And if you see, for instance, French trains nowadays, it's a catastrophe in terms of graphic design. It's like everything is completely, you know, falling apart. And it's funny that there was this understanding at some point, and then it got lost somehow. Yeah, I don't know if you have other references. Okay. You have Jean Prouvé as well, maybe.
Hello, I'm Natalia.
Hi.
In your process, now with artificial intelligence everywhere, have you started using it for creating, or are you thinking in products getting involved with this, or companies are asking you for, I don't know, using this?
Sorry, it's not very loud. Can you repeat?
Yes. If in your process of design, have you started using artificial intelligence softwares, or are you thinking in products with this, or in briefs, are companies asking you to involve this these days?
Okay, so we have so even though we've been working for 20 years, so we feel a little bit old already. So there's a lot of things that happen in the studio that we find out by chance. That was the case for 3D printing like 12 or 15 years ago, that we found out that our assistants were actually 3D printing things, and we're like, wow, that's great. So, and then they brought their 3D printer to our studio, and now we have 3D printers. So it's kind of, we're not super tech savvy somehow, and so the other day we're discussing artificial intelligence, and then we realized the team was already using it for certain stuff. So for instance, you know, but we didn't know about it. But it's like they were using it for very specific things, like for instance, when you work with an airline and you want to propose an idea, like just, you know, let's make a salt and pepper shaker that's really popular for airlines in the shape of the Matterhorn mountain in Switzerland, you know. Okay, so this idea, if you want to make it, you have to you have to make a 3D model of a thing, and then you have to make a rendering, and then you have to apply a texture, and this is going to take you half a day, right? Or you can go on Mid-Journey and you can write, can you make you know, a salt and pepper shaker in the shape of the Matterhorn, and it does it in a few seconds. So I think for like reference images and pitching and sort of exploring, it's a tool like many other tools. It's very powerful, but we did try to design complete objects, but they look really bad. I think there's like really bad taste for the moment in artificial intelligence. But when it gets good, it's a bit scary. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for. Do you listen? Yeah. Thank you for the inspiring story. I want to ask, coming back to the dichotomy IKEA Magis, do you think it's possible to make innovative products, but like Magis, but with prices of IKEA?
The question is also, is the audience of buyer, people who buy chairs, is ready to buy weird or advanced or challenging design? That's a little bit the question, I think, because as we said during the presentation, the bold chair takes a lot of time to be accepted. And Magis is a little bit also a company who try to do a bold object, because if you know a little bit the brand, they invest a lot in their designers to come with new shape, new way of seating, new materiality, and then but these products are fine for a niche than people probably like you here, because you are keen with design if you are here tonight. But the other person are maybe not always ready, and then IKEA will probably not take the risk of coming with these typologies of design, I think.
But that's a cool challenge, actually.
Yeah.
You should do it.
Yeah,
know
please
what I
do.
mean? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like we should totally do it.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's done. Thank you.
So everything, we have to end the talk. Thank you all for coming, and see you in the next Elisava Talks.
Thank you.
Yeah, faire une photo.
Ah, tu veux faire ça?
Yeah, oui. Avant que tout le monde se lève. Là.
Bon, restez.
Viens, vas-y.